Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that knows that if you keep 1 foot on the dock and 1 foot in the boat, sooner or later you'll end up in the drink.
And we know that because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And on this week's episode,
we are going to take a look at the War Powers Resolution situation in the United States House of Congress.
And turning to the United Kingdom, we're going to see how long Kier Starmer can survive because he's done it again, and also talk about the attack in Golders Green.
Turning back to the United States, we'll be taking a look at the Voting Rights Act situation coming out of the Supreme Court, and a little bit about a certain attack at the White House Correspondence Dinner.
And finally, in some good news, we're going to talk about a guy named Chuck who came to America and taught us all a lesson. All that on Doctors Not Doctors starting right now. Patrick.
Yes.
You know, every week I ask it, and I can't help but not ask it. But this time, it seems like it's been a quieter week for the Iranian news.
Yeah, a little bit. It seems like everything is just sort of absolutely fine. Nothing to see here. Very, dare I say the word, peaceful, as long as you don't count any of the, the bombings going on in Lebanon or, the fact of the massive blockade. It's all perfectly fine. We're fine here.
Yeah. We're fine here. Thanks. How are you? Again, it's been a quiet week because America has declared unilaterally yet another ceasefire, but the blockade is still in place. The world economy is still getting worse and worse and worse. And the reason that I sound like I do is because I happen to have left the UK, took a flight, and yes, there was some concern about if that flight was going to take off. I was personally concerned and if the flight was going to take off because of the issues regarding jet fuel. We're not there, but I do have a summer full of flights planned, and it's only going to get worse as long as the double blockade is in place. Yeah, well,
this is kind of the amazing thing about it, right? Is that at the beginning of this war, and I will call it a war on account of all the shooting, the Trump administration took very careful pains, it seems, to try to, act in ways that would prevent the oil industry from, having a heart attack, basically. Right, because, once Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and they realized, oh, no, this is going to spike oil prices. And that's quite bad for us politically. They started doing things like unsanctioning Russian and even Iranian oil, making sure that Iran could sell oil to use that money to continue the war against the United States, which, some might argue is a bit weird from a military standpoint. But, none of this is strategic genius. I think we can all agree, right?
Yeah. Funding your enemies while you're fighting them isn't the best idea.
Usually that's the opposite. But, of course, the reason why they would do that is that, well, we need the oil. Like, we're talking about 20% of the world's oil supply comes out of the Strait of Hormuz, and with the blockades going on, basically, we're talking about an 11% gap between the amount of oil that the world needs and the amount of oil that's actually making it to the market.
Right? That's a deficit. Right.
It's a big one. It is a absolutely massive one, and this is an issue. Like during the initial, oil embargoes back in the 1970s, right? There, you had a world that was organized around super cheap oil because, we got to exploit the shit out of the Middle East. It was pretty sweet from a Western standpoint. But then, after OPEC gets created and the price of oil starts going up, all of a sudden you have a bunch of people realizing, I guess we just can't burn oil. I guess we should do things like have better, emission standards, better miles per gallon on the cars. You had this huge shift in the West towards a much more energy efficient economy, right?
Yeah, well, that's what the EPA is for.
Well, exactly, right? Which is pretty great. And, a lot of it was individuals taking action to just use less heating oil and that kind of stuff. And that softened the blow. The problem is we can't do that again, Chris, because we already did it. So now, we've already wrung all those like easily obtainable inefficiencies out of the system. So this new massive reduction in the amount of oil that's there, there's not going to be an easy way to deal with this. This is going to get worse, and it may not get better, actually.
if only in the 1980s we had started working on electric car technology and making sure that we had, some massive, very useful alternative to still suckling at the teat of Iran. If only we had started that. Now, I recall that there was some kind of memo that actively destroyed and stopped the industry for 30 years. From, I believe, Ford or one of the American car manufacturers, that has now led us to a position where we are super, super duper reliant on this particular vital resource.
Well, I might say you're a dreamer, Chris, but you're not the only one. Yeah, no, this is basically what we've got here is just an absolutely absurd situation. It's amazing to me because the move towards a blockade from the American side, honestly, it's the only thing that makes sense from an American purely military standpoint, because that is the biggest lever America still has to be able to force Iran to come to some vaguely acceptable terms for the United States. The problem is that the cost of doing this is massively bad for the world economy and politically toxic for the Republican Party. Basically, Donald Trump is just sort of on his path to becoming the Jimmy Carter of the Republican Party. And I don't mean that in the sense of he's going to turn over a new leaf and start being like a fucking saint of a human being after he leaves office, but in the sense of being someone completely ill-suited to the presidency who just fucks up egregiously, spikes everybody's prices, and then everyone hates him for decades after he leaves office. So
I think we're going to need a deeper dive into the Jimmy Carter effect. From the things that I've heard, it's we may have a slight difference of opinion on his effect on American society. But
wonderful. I will say this about Jimmy Carter: wonderful human being. Wonderful human being.
Yes.
I do not think that he was an effective president, mostly because he was, the whole like I don't need to like work with Congress particularly. I don't know. I think he had an incorrect view of how American politics at the time operated. I will say that none of his shortcomings, I think, are the result of him being bad or not being smart, but simply I think he had a misunderstanding about the nature of American power at the time. That's all that I will say. He did a lot of good as well, unlike Trump.
That's fair enough. Now, I think we need to talk about this. How we are actually in this action, and how American presidents. We don't get into the detail of how American presidents can do what Trump has done, because a lot of presidents have started wars or conflicts without an explicit permission from the Congress, but that permission is kind of built in through the War Powers Resolution of 1973.
Well, exactly. That's literally the legal grounding for the American executive to have any role in the start of a war. The Constitution is very clear. Only Congress has the power to declare war. Congress has delegated that power to the president through the War Powers Act. And that says that in a case of emergency for American interest or, self-defense, right, the president can order the U.S. military into action for a maximum of 60 days. And if at the end of that 60-day period, Congress has not weighed in and explicitly authorized that military action, then the military action comes to an end. Like the president's authority ceases to be effective, right?
So a question for you is this. Has the 60 days passed?
It's coming up. We are right on the border of it. In fact, let's see. Today is the 1st of May.
Happy May Day.
Happy May Day, everybody, to those who celebrate. So we've had the entirety of March, that's 31 days. We've had the entirety of April, and that's
30 days.
Yeah. Oh crap! Look at that! It's here. It's the day. So this is the last day for Congress to actually weigh in and do its constitutionally mandated duty. So of course, Congress is not going to be doing its constitutionally mandated duty.
Actually, it's on recess. Just like the House of Commons, it's on recess right now. Actually, the House of Commons is prorogued. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. The funny thing about that is that the Constitution says fuck all about Congress being like, sorry, guys, we're sleeping in today. And the War Powers Resolution says fuck all about, the House of Representatives just want to take a little bit of a Cancun break,
Yeah, but here's the question, though. So we have 60 days should have passed. I think it's now passed. maybe give us a margin of a day or two.
Exactly.
Let's say it gets passed. Now, the Trump administration knows these timelines. They would have had to think about them. And obviously, they know that compliant Republicans in Congress will do whatever daddy tells them to do.
Oh, yes.
But we are talking about, again, the law. So do you know how the Trump administration is trying to get around this very real, very obvious law with a very unpopular war? Do you know how?
I mean, my understanding is that they've been ignoring the fuck out of it and just sort of saying, well, we don't have to. This is all fine. I do know that the Speaker of the House, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Little Mike Johnson.
Little Mike Johnson, Mikey J. So, yeah, MJ has announced that.
We're not doing that. We're not conflating him with actual Michael Jordan.
You're right. That's an excellent point. I walk back my snarky little aside.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Schmucks Ahoy.
Friend of the pod.
Exactly. He has announced that this is all perfectly fine. The Congress does not need to have a vote because we're not at war.
Oh, my God.
It's a special military operation in Ukraine. No, wait, sorry, that's Vladimir Putin. Never mind. But no, he's literally saying that because there is currently no kinetic military action, therefore, we're not at war in any kind of sense. And so for Congress to weigh in right now would just be to get in the way of the peace negotiations to end the... I'll start over. So, yeah, no, it is a pure announcement of the abrogation of their constitutional duty, the violation of their oaths of office. This is about as clear an example of just how utterly corrupted the Republican Party has become. The utter collapse into a single strongman authoritarian party that worships at the altar of the great leader.
DJT.
So, yeah, it's not great, Chris.
Yeah, listen, I can tell from the tone of your voice that you're not happy. And it's true. We are sitting at a point where we have one of those powerful legislatures in the world sitting on its hands because they don't want to tick off the president. It's kind of the job of Congress to tick off the president, to keep the president in control. It's the way the entire system is designed. Right. And
it's that ambition against ambition, if I can quote the fucking founders.
And that's a great way to put it. And that's why they were the founders, slave owners, some of them may have been. But still, ambition against ambition is absolutely right. It's happened here, it's happened in the UK as well, where it's actually gone only one way, though. The House of Commons taking the power from both the House of Lords and the monarchy. But I think what we're seeing here is that there's no end in sight yet, because you still have the supreme leader, wherever he may be in whatever shape he may be in, still issuing edicts, maybe from a hospital bed, maybe from some very underground bunker or hyperbaric chamber, saying that the American ships are going to be at the bottom of the sea. The Straits of Hormuz are still closed and no real sign of opening. And I think more naval vessels, potentially an aircraft carrier, are going into the area again. So we're still in this quagmire that Trump desperately needs to get out of, but I don't think he can figure out a way to get out of it. The only way, because the only real way out of this, there's only two ways out of it. Pour thousands of American bodies into the region and try to colonize the area, or you turn tail and run, because right now it seems like we're inching towards turning tail and running, which would be, frankly, a disaster as far as America is concerned. It would be the culmination of the Suez moment, the Suez crisis for America.
Yeah, that we've mentioned before, the parallel between this and the Suez crisis for France and Great Britain. It's kind of amazing that Donald Trump has taken the most powerful country the world has ever seen and placed it in a position of profound weakness. Now, there is one thing I'm going to say about the alternative solution here, which is a full military invasion and occupation of Iran, right? And it's this: I don't think the American military would go for that. And I don't just say that because of the fact that it would kill so many American soldiers. Like so many American soldiers would die because of the terrain, because of the population, because of the fact that like ambushes are absolutely a thing, but because we're running the fuck out of missiles.
That is
like
true.
we have shot off about a quarter of our THAADs, and we've produced not a single one to replace them so far because they take so long to produce, and we cannot produce them at scale. Our arms industry is, and I know this is going to sound absurd to everybody listening to this, but the arms industry in the United States is, at least in the case of missiles, too fucking small for this shit. Like we do not have the industrial base to be able to keep up with the rate of fires. Like if you're familiar with World War I and you heard about the artillery shell crisis, that's basically this, you know?
Yeah,
like Russia is producing every single month as much in the way of ammunition missiles as NATO produces in a year.
Well, of course.
I know, right? Now, Russia's spending it all uselessly to kill the Ukrainians, which is, that's the thing.
Not great.
It's a real indication of just how big this deficit is on the side of the United States. And we are currently really in danger of so depleting our stocks of ammo that we wouldn't be able to defend Taiwan. And if we can't defend Taiwan, the entire global economy goes into a tailspin because that's where all the goddamn chips are made. Like, Taiwan is an incredibly important thing for you as a person sitting at home listening to this podcast, someone who enjoys being able to, have a computer or to, have a car or do any of the things that computer chips make possible. Basically, like if you remember the short hiccup in production lines that happened under COVID, that caused massive inflation, like 10% inflation, the worst we've seen since the 1970s.
And massive shortages.
Exactly. Like none of that was fun. And all of that was from a relatively minor disruption to the computer chip trade from Taiwan. If China takes over Taiwan, then either China is in a position to hold the entire world to ransom, which they are very willing to do, because with the whole rare earth metals thing, you may have seen that happen, where they very much were saying, yeah, actually, you're going to end this trade war or no more rare earth metals for you because we have a monopoly on that shit.
Yeah.
You give them a control over the chips as well. All of a sudden, the People's Republic of China is going from a potential rival superpower to, oh no, now they're actually like, they're like the other power in the world other than the United States.
It's destroyed the American hegemony. And I mean, everything that we have has chips in them. The computers we're using for this, the televisions, our phones, our cars, our entire economy, more or less depends on these, on microchips. So I think we'll end it there for this section on Iran. We, not much to report now. And we're reporting this at the beginning of the day. We're recording this on the 1st of May in the morning because I'm out of the country. So something may happen by the time that this is edited.
And who knows what's going to happen later. So,
I mean, yeah. So there's some reports here where I'm at that, maybe, we're going to come to an end soon because more than anything, America needs this war to come to an end. The regimes that exist, not on the backs of their people's opinions or votes, they don't need this war to end. They're fine. They might be getting murdered, but they're fine because their regime survives, just like Venezuela. Their regime survives. So let's take a little break, and then we'll come right back in a second talking about the United Kingdom, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So
feels good.
Yes. So let's talk about what happened this week in the United Kingdom. So little shout out to my former staffer. She has left the job because I'm a terrible boss. No, she left the job because she had a great new position. And I was really hoping that this week we'd have this calm week where we could just, clean off the desks and like her and I have a kind of final, drink and just talk and chat and stuff. And that was all thrown out the fucking window because last week, Kier Starmer basically had to defend himself against his decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as ambassador to the United States from the UK. And there was an idea, a theory that he had misled the House, which is a big fat no. So this week, the leader of the opposition, Mrs. Kimmy Badenoch, which on the Annunciator, that's the screen that tells us everything in the House of Commons, her name comes up as Mrs. Badenoch, and we're not entirely sure if that's a nod to Mrs. Thatcher or not, but I'm pretty sure it is. So Mrs. Badenoch tabled a motion, what they call a privilege motion. And a privilege motion means that you ask the speaker to stop all business for the day and then have the House debate a very important matter on that could lead to like either on the privilege of a member. And in this case, it was a contempt motion that the House should refer the Prime Minister to the Privileges Committee. And the Privileges Committee and the Standards Committee are one and the same. They just have slightly different rules. But the main rule. They have different hats, yes. Different hats. But it's the same people. It's the same members on each committee putting on different hats. You can't see me right now, but I am doing a hat dance.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Thank you. So the House of Commons has been asked to send the Prime Minister to the Committee of Privileges, and the issue with the Privileges Committee and Standards is that they can compel members of Parliament to attend. And this is a very big deal because no other select committee in the House of Commons has the ability to demand that a member of Parliament attend its committee and then answer its questions and then abide by its ruling. Because the rulings are then passed by the House of Commons. So that means on Tuesday, instead of winding down towards prorogation, there was this big set piece event. There was a big debate, and that debate was whether or not the Prime Minister had lied or misled the House of Commons, which is a big difference than what happened to Boris Johnson. Because the last time this happened to a Prime Minister, it was Boris Johnson in 2022 over Partygate, and it was about a 3 hour. Not 3 hours. It was like a 6-7 hour long debate between all the different parts of the House, but it wasn't overly packed because, of course, we're in the middle of an election cycle. Next week, next Thursday, there's an election in the United Kingdom, of which Patrick and I shall be voting. And I know. And the Prime Minister is not slated to do well. So he had this big problem. Does do his members back him, or does he give him a free vote, or does he submit to the motion without question? Good note here. When Boris Johnson was put in front of the committee, this motion was put to Boris Johnson. He just said, "Okay, there won't be a vote. Well, I'll just go to the Privileges Committee." So there wasn't a vote at the end of it. But at this point, Keir Starmer whipped his party, i.e. demanded that they vote against the motion, i.e. for the Prime Minister, even though he probably would. I mean, he didn't need it at all. And he probably should have known that he didn't need it at all, but he's like, just to be safe. You are not allowed to vote against this motion.
When trying to be safe is the most risky option, that's not a great position to be in, I got to tell you.
No, it's not. It's not the greatest position. But the problem with, and I have talked about this before, is that we're talking about two very different kinds of scandals. So it feels like the Conservative Party was really trying to create a Boris moment for the Prime Minister, right? Right. They really wanted to create this like the Prime Minister. You did this to Boris Johnson, so we get to do this to you. But the problem with Boris is that there's videos, there's recordings of his press secretaries saying, "Oh, if this ever comes up, how do we make fun of it?" And there's videos of them making fun of the parties in number 10 when it comes to the appointment of Peter Mandelson and whether or not, the government had, put its fingers on the scales to ignore the security briefings. See how long it's taking me to explain this? See how complicated it's already getting, and I'm not giving you any real detail. That's the problem with this, with what they're trying to do. It's not an easy political win.
You're right. And that's kind of amazing to me, right? Is that like the fundamental problem here that I think the focus was on for quite some time was, hey, you put Peter fucking Mandelson in as ambassador to the United States. What the fuck was that about? I mean, that should have been the scandal when he was made the ambassador in the first place. That should already been a wait, what the fuck moment? But instead, it only became a big thing when everyone realized, wait, his ties to Epstein were even worse than we thought. That's a massive error in judgment. And Keir Starmer is the prime minister, and he is responsible for that pick. And that, I think, is scandal enough. But then everything all of a sudden became a question of, well, actually, the real question is whether or not they put their thumb on the scales when it came to the vetting. And now everything is all about the vetting. And the thing is, the vetting situation isn't actually very clear cut, it turns out. And there's a lot of smoke. There's not a whole lot of substance that you can sort of grab onto. And because Keir Starmer can very plausibly, it seems at this point, claim that, no, he didn't mislead the House, and no, he didn't put his thumb on the scales. He abided by all the blah, 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 and, et cetera. And so therefore it's all fine and dandy. That all means that Keir Starmer survives what could have been an incredibly dangerous position. I think the shift to try to get something beyond simply, this is a massive failure of judgment and the prime minister should have better judgment than this. I think the move to turn it into a question of the vetting, I think that was a massive own goal by the Conservative Party, actually.
Yeah, I mean, what this turned into, we could have been a de facto motion of confidence in the prime minister. It did not turn into that. However, there were a massive number of abstentions, and we should cut to the end here. The vote happened. The vote tally was. Let me just get it up here real quick. Right. Where did I put it? This is great television. Great television here. Okay, so
we'll do it live. Sorry, go on.
The ayes were. So should he go to the Committee on Privileges? The ayes are 223. The noes are 335. He had a majority of 112. There was no chance of him. Well, there was no chance of him losing it. 15 Labor MPs voted against. They voted no, they voted yes. They wanted him to go to Privileges Committee. But this is what I find very interesting. 53 Labor MPs, no vote recorded, i.e. they didn't turn up. 52. 52 out of the 403 Labor MPs did not turn up.
That's interesting.
So that I find that to be very interesting because some of them I'm sure were campaigning. Some of them probably like Yvette Cooper wasn't there. And I'm sure that she was as Home Secretary doing Home Secretary stuff. Right. Which we'll probably talk about in the next section. But it is, I think, notable that a lot of Labor didn't come out to support the prime minister, and 15 decided that he needs to report himself. A lot of the speaker, I think we need to talk about the speaker for just 2 seconds. The speaker spent a lot of time granting Labor people who did not like Keir Starmer a chance to speak. And because these are the guys who get up and say, I don't know how I'm going to vote, but if nothing's wrong, then you should not be afraid to go to Privileges. Why don't you just refer to yourself? And I understand what they're saying, because I think we can, in this particular section here, what people want to get Keir Starmer for is the appointment of Peter Mandelson. And this is where I find impeachment might be better than confidence motions, because there is no mechanism to punish the prime minister for the appointment of Peter Mandelson. This privilege motion it's tangentially about Mandelson, but it's really about process, right? If you were to do a confidence motion and say, I want to have a new election because of the appointment of Mandelson, does it rise to a new election? Does it rise to the standard of a new election? Right, because that would be the de facto. That would be the de facto outcome of the conventional expected outcome of a confidence motion. Whereas, and I know we don't do it a lot in America, but I mean, Bill Clinton
have consequences for our actions. No, not at all.
No, we don't do it in America. But this is the procedural theory here. This action could have been impeachable in America. You put a pedophile's friend into a very high position. Bill Clinton was impeached for the inappropriate relationship with Monica Lewinsky, right?
I mean, theoretically, he was impeached because for giving false testimony regarding the nature of his relationship with an intern, and so.
But you see what I'm saying? It's like he's given he gave shitty evidence, he lied. He lied under oath, which is like, okay, well, you've broken the law, but effectively it was about that. And getting rid of him doesn't create a whole new electoral cycle. It just says you need to go, and then your vice president can take over.
Right.
There is no real mechanism here for that. Not even with Boris and Partygate. He lied to the House of Commons. He had to go to privileges, and he resigned before the privileges committee came out because they were going to suspend him for like a whole bunch of days, like 20 days or something, and then that could have caused a recall, whatever, right? Yeah. So I think there is no mechanism there for that. Anyway, I think I've now expended everything I have for that.
Okay, the chambers are empty.
Yes. Just for a second, I think more than a second, we do need to address the attack that happened in Golders Green on Wednesday.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Mm-hmm. And so, can you run us through the details on this? Like,
so basically, this person was walking down the street and in Golders Green, which is a predominantly very, very Jewish neighborhood. It's a large Jewish community out there in Golders Green, which is in North London. And a person was walking through the street and then took out a knife and started stabbing people. He stabbed two people, both of whom are in stable conditions, but were pretty seriously injured. The video is out there, and it is just, you don't see it coming. He's just walking on the street, knife out, and then the first person that he can see, he goes after. Jesus. So this is, I think, probably the second largest attack. This is the worst attack, but over a period of about a month. A few weeks ago, there was an attack on a ambulance service that works for the community as well. Right. They applied. It's called Herzola, I think. They are kind of a Jewish faith-based volunteer ambulance service, and their ambulances are set on fire in the middle of the night. Yeah. So there have been these kind of constant, these ongoing attacks in the community, which in a community that's already been on edge since October the 7th, 2023. October 7th,
I mean,
and even before. But there's been this tension in that community because of that they see the like pro-Palestinian marches as some of them will see the pro-Palestinian marches as almost blatant anti-Semitism, right. and therefore they're seeing that this constant conversation and discussion about what's going on in Israel as almost a kind of a sign to keep them on edge. I would say keep them on edge about their safety. And when people get stabbed in the street, there it is.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? Like on the one hand, I think there's a sort of widespread belief on the part of people who, identify with the Palestinians and with their struggle, and see the actions of the state of Israel as being, basically colonialism, if not tantamount to genocide, certainly in the last few years, right? There's a belief, I think, that says that, well, because so many people on the pro-Israel side of things have spent so much time identifying criticism of the state of Israel with anti-Semitism, that therefore any worries about anti-Semitism are really just a way of shutting down criticism of Israel. And I don't think that that's quite true, because if you're Jewish in the United Kingdom and you know that Israel is in the news for doing horrific shit, regardless of your personal beliefs, regardless of where you stand on the issue, you know that there's going to be crazy bastards who are going to identify the problem as being the Jews, regardless of where they live. And because Jews in the United Kingdom are in the United Kingdom, crazy bastards in the United Kingdom who are deeply anti-Semitic will target them. So, like, it's not at all crazy to be Jewish in the United Kingdom and to see this is turning in a way that is not good. This is the kind of thing that is literally endangering myself and my loved ones. And I am going to want to prevent myself, my family, my friends, my people from being endangered like that, right? Like, this is one of those situations where people of goodwill can easily end up viewing each other with deep, deep, deep mistrust, right? So actions like this, terrorism, the whole point of terrorism is precisely to erode trust, to break down societies, to force people to take sides against each other, right? And of course, this is true of state terrorism as well as individual terrorism, So I think one of the reasons why the Netanyahu administration in Israel has been so willing to engage in such extreme, horrific, deeply illegal violence is precisely that it forces everyone around the world to have to take a side. And he's just sort of counting on that, enough Jews in the rest of the world will feel threatened that they will have to side with Netanyahu by, basically because there's no other options, and of course, the same is also true of, organizations like Hamas having an October 7th, having a massive attack that focuses on and murders civilians in large numbers, forced basically everyone to have to pick a side. So in a way, the extremes on both sides kind of need each other. Like if you're Netanyahu, you need Hamas to be, fascist and terrorist. And if you're Hamas, you need Netanyahu to be a fucking fascist genocidaire. So it's, I have no grand statement to tie this all up, but holy shit, it sucks. And I'm glad that no one died in this attack. And that shit should stop immediately because fucking hell.
Well, as we will discuss in the American section, this does nothing for this helps no one.
It helps the extremes, it helps the fascists on both sides.
It helps the extremes, but the people in the middle, like they don't know what to do. There's a community living in constant fear, and we hear about this stuff, and then of course there's other attacks. There's a person who was raped in the north of England, who was Muslim, and she was, I believe, the phrases that were used were, all just Islamophobic.
No, she actually was Sikh.
I'm sorry, Sikh.
Yeah, but the man who broke into her apartment to rape her just did not give two shits about identifying because honestly, that's for fuck's sake. Yeah.
But we're talking about, we're in a state of very enhanced, not scrutiny, but we're in a state of enhanced fear in a lot of communities. Again, and like there is the general issue with London where, stabbings do happen, but then there's like the very specific issue where this happened in this community to these people. There's a very specific issue that now there's these questions what ticks me off is that it always often devolves into, well, we should cancel this, or we should end that, or we should, like I was listening to the commentary, and it became very political very quickly, and and there was I feel politicized by the Conservative Party. Nigel Farage turned up in the neighborhood, which given his history with people, with the stories that have come out about him in school, the things that he was saying about gas chambers and the Holocaust, like the fact he's able to walk into that neighborhood is a fucking nightmare. But it's far too complicated for us to put to rights.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I guess we'll leave on this note that attacks on civilians are always wrong. They're always wrong, And terrorism, I think, goes beyond simple crime. I think it is, or rather, let me put it this way: like if you're talking about a stabbing that happens in London, that's a crime, and it's investigated, it's punished because it's a crime. If you're doing it though with the intent of sparking terror in a population, right? Like that's more than just a stabbing. That's more than just attempted murder. That gets to, a different type of crime. It goes beyond that, right? And so, that's I think what terrorism effectively is. It's not just the crime, but the intended effect of that crime. The second,
of course,
right?
Of course, that's what makes it different.
Yeah, and and so in the case of the Golders Green stabbing, I think there's. I don't see any reason not to categorize this as terrorism in that sense.
Of course.
So yeah,
but that's the point. The point is to terrorize, the point is to terrorize, and we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Let's take a little break, and we will head on to the America section. And we will be right back. And we're back.
And it's time for us to turn to the United States of America, and in particular towards that most august and austere of organizations, the United States Supreme Court.
Yes. The institution, which is the highest court in the land, which is supposed to protect our rights. And it has once again done a wonderful job for a minority of people. Not that minority of people. In fact, they've now screwed over that minority of people to help the billionaires. Normally it's billionaires, but this time it's the racists.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so it's just a banner fucking day. So in case you haven't been following the news, a Supreme Court decision has just come down in the case of Louisiana versus Calais. Now, this is a case that relies basically on the interpretation of the Voting Rights Act. So the Voting Rights Act, this originally was passed in, I believe, 1965. The idea being that while theoretically everyone had the right to vote in America, in actuality, if you were black and in the South and you attempted to vote, you get murdered. So it wasn't great, basically. And of course, you had, limitations on people's ability to vote, on the basis of, literacy tests until we passed a constitutional amendment to ban that kind of bullshit. But so the original wording of the VRA basically said that if there was any attempt to prevent people from exercising the right to vote or to prevent them from electing their own people, like the people of their choice to Congress, through discriminatory intent, that was unconstitutional, that was wrong, that was against the law. The Republican Party sued, and there was a court case about that. Particularly, there was a bunch of districts that were very much racially gerrymandered to prevent black people from being able to elect black representatives. To give you an example of this, Louisiana, about 1/3 African American in population until 1990. Absolutely no African Americans elected to the House of Representatives from Louisiana. So 2/3 white in population, but 100% white in terms of representation. So not great. The Supreme Court did end up finding that, well, okay, you can't say that these kind of racial gerrymanders are bad unless you have proof that it was deliberately a racial gerrymander. So as long as, they said it wasn't a racial gerrymander, it's fine. The U.S. Congress responded, because this was at a time when the U.S. Congress could do things and actually pass laws to deal with problems.
Did
I know, it's amazing.
They did things.
Amazing. So they passed an updated Voting Rights Act that said, okay, the rule is if there's a gerrymander that has the effect of disenfranchising Americans on the basis of their race, right? So not intentionally creating a racial gerrymander to prevent people from being able to exercise the right to vote, but instead, it just so happens, oops, all white people, like that. That was the new standard according to the Voting Rights Act, right? Now, Louisiana has sued because Louisiana would very much like to go back to having all white people in the House of Representatives from Louisiana. But of course, they can't say that because that would definitely be against the law. So instead, what they're doing is they are having a partisan gerrymander so that, all Republicans. Right?
Ah.
Yeah. Which, totally different, because under Rucho v. Common Cause, a Supreme Court case from a few years back, the Supreme Court ruled that while it's true that partisan gerrymandering is totally antithetical to the United States, institutions and ideology and anti-democratic and bad, nonetheless, the courts have no ability to rule on it. It is what we call non-justiciable. So really, it's up to the voters of each state to vote in elections that they're prevented from voting effectively in to overturn. It's
wow.
Rucho v. Common Cause is a bullshit ruling. It is absolutely untenable and absurd. It is basically a manual for how to create a one-party state inside of a nominally democratic republic. But it did at least say that, racial gerrymanders, of course. Now that's obviously
you can't obviously keep them from voting.
Exactly, right? So, so a lot of people thought, okay, so this is bad, but at the very least, the white supremacists aren't going to be able to just gerrymander themselves back into an all-white system, because the Supreme Court did say racial gerrymanders are still bad, and the Voting Rights Act still applies.
Yeah.
This brings us to Louisiana v. Calais.
Okay.
So here, Samuel Alito, writing for the majority.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
here we go.
This is bad. Basically said that properly understood, the Voting Rights Act only forbids gerrymanders that are deliberately intended to prevent minorities from exercising the right to vote. If it's for some other reason, like partisan gerrymandering, that's protected under the Constitution, not just non-justiciable, but protected.
So the Voting Rights Act allows political parties to carve out spaces for them to win always.
Yeah, exactly. So, 100%, you can create a system where your guys win all the time. And those of you who were born just yesterday under a cabbage leaf that has fallen off the back of a turnip may be saying to yourself, well, okay, so that's bad, but what's that got to do with racial gerrymandering? Well, the issue is that in the United States, there is an incredibly strong correlation between being African American and voting for the Democratic Party. It's not that there are no black Republicans. There absolutely are.
There are plenty of black Republicans, and we can have an entire day talking about those geniuses.
Absolutely. The thing is, though, that they are not very numerous. So, like, usually the Democratic candidate for president, for example, gets between like 85 and 95% of the vote in any given electoral year. So this is a really strong correlation. So in other words, and this is particularly true in the South.
That's the black vote, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so basically, the situation here is this. If you're doing a partisan gerrymander in the South, where the vast majority of African Americans vote for the Democratic Party, and the vast majority of white Americans vote for the Republican Party, and, there's a lot of reasons why that might be the case. And none of those reasons are particularly nice, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In that scenario, if you do a partisan gerrymander, you are perforce doing a racial gerrymander. And to give you an idea about just how ready a lot of Southern Republican-controlled states are to cast off the shackles of equality and re-embrace the liberation of oppression, Alabama has all of a sudden said, hooray, this is great, because currently they're prevented from being able to gerrymander themselves until 2030, because, they tried to do a racial gerrymander and they got smacked down by the courts. But now, why the fuck not? After all, they just have to say, oh, no. We're just creating a one-party state where the Republicans control everything and the Democrats can't get elected. And if that means there's no black people anymore in Congress, well...
That's their fault for not voting Republican.
Right, exactly. So, this is just... Elena Kagan's dissent is quite good in terms of pointing out that this is enshrining now, while claiming not to do any such thing, it's enshrining the ability of any state to racially gerrymander the shit out of its congressional elections, because all you gotta do is claim that actually we're just doing it to create a one-party state to end democracy. So as long as you're doing it to destroy democracy, you can be white supremacist. That's the Supreme Court's official ruling now.
Because the two of these things are unrelated.
Right. So it's basically, I would hereby like to nominate Chief Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court of the United States for the Roger Taney Civil Rights Award.
Roger Taney Civil Rights Award.
Yeah. First time ever that award has ever been thought of, much less had someone nominated for it. And for those of you who don't know, Roger Taney was the Chief Justice of the United States under, what was it? Not Plessy v. Ferguson, but...
wow. It's just Dred Scott?
Dred Scott, thank you very much. The 1850s. Yeah, he is, as everyone will tell you, the worst fucking Supreme Court justice America has ever seen. Dred Scott is one of the absolute worst dog shit decisions, both from a legal and from a moral and ethical and political and everything standpoint. But John Roberts, yeah, John Roberts is, I would say he's up there now. He's up there with Roger Taney as far as just justices who so thoroughly corrupted their role and so thoroughly decided to just tell the law to go screw itself, because he has a thing that he would like to get done, which is to end the Voting Rights Act. And now he's done it without ever having to say that he's done it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a real achievement in the field of douchebaggery and white supremacy.
Yeah, I think you done a good job there explaining what's happened, and also, the implications of what's happened. A lot of southern states are now trying to immediately redraw their districts to create Republican-only states. Yeah. And we are now fully, probably in the end game of the redistricting war, this is what this is all about, by the way. I mean, trying to disenfranchise Black voters, that is a centuries-long plan, because a century and a half ago, Black people couldn't even vote in America. And when they could vote, as Patrick said, all these barriers put into their place. And also they were lynched for trying to vote. And also there was, taxes put on them. I mean, so many different ways that the South has been trying to prevent Black people from voting, because they know they're going to lose. And there was a period of time in America during Reconstruction where Black people actually made it into legislatures and actually made it into Congress. And then eventually,
Black senator, there were Black governors, it was, and it took a massive campaign of terrorism to be able to put down seriously, it took a massive campaign of terrorism to be able to overthrow democratically elected governments, to be able to crush the cross-racial voting majority that existed in southern state after southern state after southern state. They called themselves the Redeemers, because
the Redeemers.
Yeah.
Maybe it might sound better that the 3%ers are the Proud Boys now. This is another reason you have to get out there and vote and register and make sure that you are registered, because so many people don't want you to vote. And I mean, the arguments are always, there's lots of immigrants voting. There aren't. There's lots of people. I think the last story that I saw was actually Republican, or an immigrant who was voting was actually a Trump supporter. But don't quote me on that yet. I saw.
I've seen the stories as well. He was a mayor of a small town.
He was a mayor of a small town.
Yeah, and it turned out he was he's here illegally in the United States without the proper papers and authorization and voting. Which, good Christ, man.
Yeah, I mean, hell. I mean, I hope he's not voting for the Republican Party, because that would be embarrassing.
He was voting for the Republican Party.
Yeah, of course. So we have that. And I guess we're going to have to wait and see, because there's been redistricting fights, and I think Florida is now trying to redistrict to make it so that there's only one Democrat, but now I guess they could just have none. But this again, I do wonder, and I think we can leave it here before we get to the next section. I do wonder if these attempts to disenfranchise voters will have the Texas effect.
I mean, I think that they may well do. And I'll tell you why. The politics for the Republicans in this next election are looking dire as fuck. Donald Trump is extremely unpopular. Polls now have him at 2-1 disapproval to approval. This is an extinction level event for a whole lot of Democrat or a whole lot of Republican Congress people, and potentially even Republican senators. The voting markets now have the Democrats as being the odds-on favorite to take the Senate. This should not be possible. And one of the dangers of gerrymandering is that the more you pack and the more you crack, the greater the opportunity for a wave election that goes against you to just wipe you out. And I think if you get a Republican gerrymander in the state of Florida, the opportunities for a Democratic wave, and I think what we're looking at is a Democratic wave, to just absolutely swamp the gerrymanders. This could lead to the Democrats gaining seats if the Republicans aren't careful. So
I think what it does is that it creates it puts the information in your face. If you were a meh election, as they say, if you just don't care and it's just another election and everybody gets to vote or whatever, you're not going to care. But if the news is saying, hey, here's a group of people who don't want you to vote and they're changing the law to prevent you from voting, and did you know that you still can vote though? And so I mean, there's that. Let's leave it there. Because I think we should take a short time to talk about the White House Correspondence Dinner attack.
You're right. It's time to turn our attention to Nerd Prom.
Nerd Prom, yes. For those of you who are unaware, every year, or used to be every year, there was an event in Washington, D.C. called the Washington Correspondence Dinner, the White House Correspondence Dinner.
That's the one.
Thank you. And it was a night where we celebrate in America the freedom of the press, and it's an award show for the press. And for the past several years, Donald Trump, whether it be the first term or the current term, has refused to attend, and they didn't have the award. I don't think they had the award show in that time. But this year, completely unusually, he was going to attend, which didn't make any sense to anybody. And let's not forget that the host of this show was not going to be, which it's normally a comic who then roasts the president or has fun with the president. This time it was an illusionist who likes to show off tricks and stuff.
Hooray! Because God forbid the press should stand up to power and be able to make fun of it. Yeah, that's not allowed in Trump's America.
No, not in Trump's America. No, So it was already kind of a weird event to happen in the first place, given how Trump treats the free press and anyone who disagrees with him. Usually call them a disgusting, lunatic, crazy person who should be ashamed of themselves and embarrassed.
Enemy of the people, and also they should lose their jobs and lose their licenses and, just have the power of the state crush them. That's, freedom of speech.
Because that's what freedom of speech is. But the night didn't even really get started because not too long after, I think the president sat down and was being entertained by an illusionist, shots were fired outside of the ballroom at the Washington, D.C. Hilton. A man had charged past the security checkpoint and was
armed with several guns
and knives. Shots were fired at the person as he was trying to run towards the ballroom.
He was running towards because I understand he was on a different floor to the actual ballroom.
Right.
So this was not like he was like moments away from getting to the president. This was he rushed past the first security cordon that was on a different floor to the ballroom, and the Secret Service who were there to guard the place did their jobs, and the guy was taken into custody. And no one was injured, actually, thank God.
Initial reports said that a Secret Service person was shot in the body armor in the chest, but that wasn't put into the official indictment, or what is it?
So the guy's now been indicted for attempted murder. And for the record, he did put out a manifesto, and the manifesto. The manifesto made it clear that he was acting for political purposes. I think you could honestly characterize him as being somewhere on the anti-Trump religious left of the spectrum, basically. So someone who said that he was acting for his Christian principles to take out a pedophile murderer, et cetera, et cetera.
He didn't specifically mention Trump, though, as any of those things. But in an interview with CBS, when the manifesto was put to Trump,
Norah O'Donnell, I think. Yeah.
Norah O'Donnell. And again, free speech. And she says, these are some of the things he said. He doesn't want to support pedophiles and rapists. And Trump's like, I'm not a pedophile. I'm not a rapist. And she literally said, you think he was talking about you?
Yeah.
That's weird. And then he went into saying how much he was a horrible person and he should walk away and he should do all this stuff. I mean, he reacted like a normal person would react when didn't even let her finish the phrase.
He is the most normal man who has ever lived. I think we can all agree about our dear leader in that respect.
He's so great. He's so great.
Yeah. So again, I want to make very, very clear here that attacks against civilians and political violence, these are fucking bad. This is not a thing. As long as democracy still exists, as long as you have the ability to vote the bastards out, you have no right to use political violence to get what you want.
Absolutely.
If I can quote Parliament Funkadelic, the great keepers of the flame of democracy, you don't need the bullet when you got the ballot.
Well, exactly. This is the big problem here. This guy who seemingly is, again, what's that quote? Just because you have an education doesn't mean you have intelligence.
Yeah,
the guy, he's got a computer science degree, I think a master's degree, and he's got all, I've seen him in his academic robes and whatnot. But he's obviously a fucking moron, because what have you accomplished, right? So I've seen a picture of you butt naked, laid out in the in the hallway, and
I mean, he was shirtless. He was shirtless.
I don't care. I just assumed that they stripped him naked and took a picture of him immediately to put on social media. That's not even for funnies. I think that they let's mock this person. Let's make this person a pariah immediately. Now, also, what was the plan? So you're going to run past the first set of armed guards into the second set of armed guards into a room full of thousands of people, worm your way through the tables to get up to the top table, and somehow, having not been tackled either by the Secret Service or just a person getting up to go to the bathroom, make it to the top table and try to kill the president. Well, it makes no fucking sense.
Well, the thing is, in his manifesto, he says his goal is to kill administration officials.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So it doesn't say the president, actually, which is true. Interesting. And also it sets out a whole list of here's how the targeting will work. Administration officials, get them. Secret Service people, not unless they fire first. Hotel security staff, same thing. Civilians, not at all unless they literally attack me. Someone who, I'm going to use a very weird phrase here, had given some thought to the ethics of his political violence, which is probably one of the reasons why he wasn't very successful at doing the actual violence. But so what's really interesting about this, right, from a legal standpoint, is that he has been indicted for attempted murder. He was rushing past the security cordon. He was armed to the teeth.
Yes.
He did not open fire. Yeah. And so the question then becomes, right, okay, so he's got a manifesto saying that, yes, he's going to commit an attack. He's going to attempt to shoot administration officials. That clearly speaks to an intent to, engage in attempted murder, right? To attempt to commit murder. And he's rushing past the thing. So I think you definitely have a very strong argument that this all adds up to all the elements of attempted murder. But if he's got a defense attorney, and he will have, the defense attorney might very well say, well, yeah, but he actually wasn't intending to murder anyone at that moment. He was rushing in to do a different thing. He had changed his mind, whatever. I think that the likelihood of that working is infinitesimal. But the fact is that there is at least a sliver of possibility that he could make the claim that actually, I was just looking to cause a scene, and that's why I didn't open fire at anyone. You could tell. It's weird.
Either way, I mean, he's done no one any good. He's advanced zero causes, and he's not part of the problem of pervasive American political violence. And he's also given more ammunition to the right wing to say that the left wing is a dangerous, violent group, and the right wing are just pacifists. And and now they're going after Jimmy Kimmel again.
Of course,
because
we have to talk about Jimmy Kimmel.
2 days earlier, Jimmy Kimmel had the White House Correspondence Dinner is also kind of a roast, like I said, and so Jimmy Kimmel basically created his own fake White House Correspondence roast dinner, right? And then he said that Melania Trump, looking beautiful in the audience with the glow of an expectant widow. And it was obviously at the time, this happened before the
2 days before the Correspondence Dinner, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of what you say to a young bride who's got an old rich husband. But Melania Trump then decided to retroactively attack Kimmel for saying these things. And now, once again, the FCC will be looking into ABC's broadcasting license for any violations, because once again, all of these organs of the government are completely co-opted by Trump. So and then you also have the kind of expected cavalcade of, one, you can't call Trump bad names. You can't say anything negative against Trump because that's why people want to hurt him. And now also there is the cavalcade of And before any of that, the first thing that came out of the president's mouth was, we need to build the ballroom. His giant fucking ballroom that's not big enough to hold everybody. And now Lindsey Graham wants it to be paid for by the American people as opposed to private donors who we don't know who they are. So now American people should have to pay the $400 million to build it. So the entire this entire affair has blown up again into this Charlie Foxtrot, if I'll say, of like a political grossness. And first off, we should also say, I'm glad that that no one was seriously injured or injured. The pictures from inside are wild, or the videos from inside are wild. People who were the dude from New York who was unfazed, continuing to eat his dinner. The people grabbing bottles of wine.
That man is a hero, and everyone who snagged a bottle of wine from the table, God go with you. Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, the people are just going to man, the night's over. No, it ain't. Yo. Going to different tables. Clink, clink, clink. People walking out with heavy bags. What's in your bag? Nothing. Clink, 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 clink. Who's going? It is just. It's a very weird time. Anyways,
I will just to tidy it up, right? You're right. Donald Trump immediately tried to turn this into, this is a reason why we need the ballroom. And I will say that there is some logic to that argument, because the logic is that it's not just a ballroom, it's also a Führer bunker. It'll have a massive bunker underneath the ballroom. And Donald Trump wants his Führer bunker, because then he can be safe from ever having to deal with an American again. He won't have to worry about public opinion or about the consequences of his own actions until
another election.
Yeah, until the Russians are outside the Berlin and some steps have to be taken. So
I mean, obviously, Trump, the forever king, will live forever, and we shall always be happy to have him. And hail Trump, King of America, so on and so forth, yada yada yada, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think we leave it there. And I think we move on finally to some good news, which does remain in America, but also it is UK related. I'm no royalist, but I watched a lot of the King's visit to the I watched the highlights of the King's visit to the United States. I was actually very, very busy this week, so I wasn't able to watch everything, but I was able to catch up on the highlights. And soft power is done very well in the UK. The King. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, the King, King Charles III and Queen Camilla went to America on a state visit, which was a reciprocation from Trump's visit to the UK a few weeks ago. And he toured everywhere. I think he went to New York and he went to a street party in Virginia, but he spent a lot of time in DC, and he basically went there to tell the little boys and girls to calm the fuck down, and or in other cases to do your jobs. He went to Congress and he gave this speech, and he's like, the Magna Carta, it's listed in so many of your Supreme Court documents and so many of your original, jurisdiction. What do you call they come out with the ruling from the Supreme Court? Is it just a ruling?
Yeah, the rulings, exactly.
So many of your Supreme Court rulings. And what's interesting about the Magna Carta? I'm paraphrasing, of course. He's like, the powers that it takes away from the executive. Isn't that weird? And I'm a king. Now let me you all realize I'm the King of England, and I'm telling you that I have so many things holding me back from my executive power through the Magna Carta, which you use all the time. So, hey, dumbasses, maybe you should get off your ass before he kills us all. Hi, King Charles III, I'm out. And then he went to there's a state dinner, and there was a pretty funny line. Trump apparently said to Europe at some point, he's like, if it weren't for us, you'd all be speaking German right now. And the king said in the dinner, if it weren't for us, you'd all be speaking French right now. And everybody's like, oh, that's actually pretty funny. And Trump, you could just be like, ha, 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 ha. What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. Why would we be speaking French? We were, my family was from Scotland and Germany. I don't. So he had some good quips, and I mean, if the crown is anything to be believed, he was a a drama kid, frankly. And so
I think you're going to need to unpack that a little bit. What do you mean a drama kid?
as in like a drama kid, as in like a kid who did plays.
Okay, but like,
if the Crown, the television show, is to be believed.
Oh, I see. Yes, sorry,
yeah.
I misunderstood. Yeah, I got it. I'm here.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that like he understands how to land. Like how to land a joke. He understands how to weave a message,
right.
And he even has his own little he knows how to deliver a message, which is really helpful because the message is actually underneath all of the velvet tones of of the monarchy. It was actually a weird democratic message. It was a weirdly hyper democratic message of you need to keep checks on executive power. You need to he was pro NATO. He said, we're not doing this. P.S. The only time
that's another big thing. Yeah.
The only time we ever did need this. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, I gotta say, like, again, not a monarchist, but I do feel like Charles did good. He did pretty good with this. Like, it's a message of democracy. It's a message of constitutionalism. It's a message of support for NATO. Like, and these are messages that need to be heard in the United States. And I think King Charles is weirdly enough in a position of being outside of the political binary in the United States, such that I think many Republicans who heard that speech might well have taken some of it on board and said to themselves, this is a good point, actually. So I'm not saying that this changes everything, because nothing changes everything. That's not how anything works.
Oh, no, no.
But I do think that this adds, a little bit more weight into the balance, and more weight onto the side of, maintaining a free and democratic system in the United States, which is important not just for Americans, but for the world as a whole. If America goes fully nuts, the world goes fully nuts. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think finally, to those people who are surprised that there were no King's protests when the King of England was in America, you're a moron. So,
that's the thing. We don't have a king in America. There was just a king who happens to be in America.
Which is different from a person trying to take absolute power.
Yep.
And on that, I think we'll end the show. Thank you for listening. Thanks for working for me. You know who you are. And as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And we are doctors.
Not doctors.
Good morning.